Right now, somewhere near you, there's probably a guitar leaning in a corner. Sometime today, someone will pick it up, press a finger to a string, and pull. A note will fill the room. You won't think twice about it. But here's the strange part: the thing actually making that sound, the string itself, is almost silent. Stretch a steel string between two posts on a workbench, with no body, no wood, nothing else, and pluck it as hard as you can. You'll barely hear it, a thin, ghostly buzz. That string is moving the same way it moves inside a guitar, but on its own it can't push enough air to reach your ears. So, how does that nearly silent twitch of metal become a sound that can fill a concert hall? The answer is a chain of physics that took humanity 400 years to fully understand, and it changes how you'll hear every note from now on, because the sound you love isn't really coming from the string at all. It's coming from the wood, the air, and a piece of trapped breath inside a wooden box. Let's start with the string, because the string is where the music is born. When you pluck it, you don't create one motion, you create a standing wave. The string is anchored at both ends, so it can only vibrate in shapes that fit perfectly between those 2 points. A single arc, then two, then three, dividing itself into ever smaller loops. The slowest, biggest shape sets the pitch you hear. The faster ones stacked on top are the harmonics, quieter ghost notes ringing at 2 times, 3 times, 4 times the speed. The rules governing all of this were worked out astonishingly early. In 1636, the French monk and mathematician Marin Mersenne published Harmonie Universelle, and in it he laid down what we still call Mersenne's laws. He found that a string's pitch depends on exactly three things: how long it is, how tight it is, and how heavy it is. Tighten a string, the pitch climbs. Shorten it, which is exactly what you do when you press down on a fret, the pitch climbs. Make it heavier, the pitch drops. This is the secret hiding in plain sight on every guitar. Look at the strings. The low ones are thick and often wound with extra wire. The high ones are thin. The makers deliberately weigh the bass strings down so that all six can be held at roughly the same tension, yet sound notes an octave and more apart. A monk in the 1630s described the math your fingers obey today. But here's what's fascinating: that same plucked string doesn't just sound a pitch, it sounds a personality. 200 years after Mersenne, the German physicist Hermann von Helmholtz figured out why a guitar and a flute playing the identical note still sound nothing alike. In his 1863 masterwork on the sensations of tone, Helmholtz showed that every musical note is a stack of those harmonics layered together, and the exact recipe, how loud the second harmonic is against the fifth, how quickly the higher ones fade, is what your brain hears as timbre. That word timbre just means the color of a sound. The string isn't playing a note, it's playing a chord of itself, and that hidden chord is the fingerprint of the instrument. So the string carries the music, but it can't carry it to you alone. And this is where the guitar performs its real trick. The vibrating string is connected through the bridge to the large flat piece of wood on the front of the guitar, the soundboard or top. When the string moves, it tugs the bridge, and the bridge drives the entire top into motion. Suddenly, you don't have a sliver of metal pushing air. You have a whole sheet of spruce flexing back and forth, shoving a huge volume of air with every cycle. Physicists call this impedance matching, a clumsy phrase for a beautiful idea. The light, fast string and the heavy, sluggish air don't trade energy well directly. The soundboard sits between them as a translator, taking the string's tiny motion and spreading it across a surface big enough to actually move the room. No energy is added. The pluck of your finger is the only power source. The wood just spends that energy far more loudly. And nobody proved the supremacy of that soundboard more dramatically than a Spanish carpenter named Antonio de Torres. In the 1850s and 60s, Torres essentially invented the modern guitar. Its size, its shape, the fan shaped pattern of thin braces glued under the top that lets it flex in rich, complex ways. His rivals insisted the magic was in the precious woods of the back and sides. So around 1862, Torres built a guitar to humiliate that idea. The top was fine spruce, but the back and sides were made of papier mache, cardboard, and it sang. That guitar survives today in the Museo de la Música in Barcelona, and it settled the argument for good. The soul of a guitar's voice lives in its top. Everything else is mostly the box that holds it. But the box is not nothing, and the last secret of the guitar is hiding inside it: in the air itself. Look at the hole in the front of an acoustic guitar. It seems like an obvious thing, just a window for the sound to escape. It is not. That hole, together with the air sealed inside the body, forms what's called a Helmholtz resonator, named again for Helmholtz, who built little glass spheres in the 1850s to isolate single tones. It's the exact same physics as blowing across the top of an empty bottle. The air trapped in the chamber acts like a spring, and the plug of air in the sound hole bounces on that spring at one particular frequency, pumping in and out of the hole like the guitar is breathing. This breathing reinforces the lowest notes, the ones the thin soundboard struggles to project on its own. It's why an acoustic guitar has that warm, round bottom end, and why the same strings on a solid body electric, with no chamber at all, sound thin and quiet until you plug them in. Guitar makers tune this breath. The Helmholtz resonance of a typical steel string sits down around F sharp to A in the second octave, roughly 92 to 110 vibrations per second, placed deliberately to lift the bass strings, and it gets suppler still. Modern acoustic researchers have shown that this air resonance and the lowest flexing mode of the top plate don't act alone. They couple together, like two pendulums linked by a spring, splitting into a pair of new resonances that share the work of radiating low sound. The guitar isn't an amplifier with one trick, it's a small orchestra of coupled vibrations, wood and air answering each other. You can even see the wood sing. 2 centuries ago, the German physicist Ernst Chladni sprinkled fine sand on vibrating plates and watched it dance into ghostly geometric patterns, gathering along the still lines where the plate wasn't moving. In the 20th century, a New England violin maker and chemist named Carleen Hutchins revived that exact technique, working with the physicist Frederick Saunders to map the hidden vibrating modes of instrument plates. Sprinkle glitter on a guitar top, drive it with a tone, and the specks scatter away from the moving regions and pile up along the quiet ones, drawing the invisible shapes the wood makes when it speaks. Skilled luthiers still tap their tops and listen, shaving wood a fraction of a millimeter at a time, chasing a resonance they can hear but not see. So think about what's really happening the next time you hear a guitar. You pluck a string, it splits itself into a stack of standing waves, a fundamental pitch wearing a coat of harmonics. Physics Mersenne mapped in 1636 and Helmholtz decoded in 1863. The bridge hands that motion to a thin sheet of spruce, which spreads it wide enough to move the air. The secret Torres proved with a cardboard guitar that sang. And inside the body, a hidden pocket of air breathes in and out through the sound hole, swelling the low notes, the box itself resonating in conversation with the wood. What if the sound you've always thought of as the string is mostly the wood remembering how to move? Every acoustic guitar is a machine for catching a nearly silent twitch of metal and translating it through spruce and trapped air into something a whole room can feel in its chest. The string is the spark, but the song belongs to the box, the dancing top that Chladni sand revealed, the breathing chamber tuned to a low, warm A, the spruce that Torres trusted over gold. We tend to credit the player's fingers and the bright steel strings. We almost never thank the quiet wooden room doing the loudest work of all.